Good evening. Thank you for joining us for Sound Stories on Screen, our screening of the four-part documentary series, Tackling Pollution on Long Island Sound. My name is Olivia Freud, and I am one of the co-leads of the water learning community at Yale School of the Environment.
Hi, everyone. My name is Katie Baker, and I serve as Olivia's co-lead. Our learning community acts as a resource for students at Yale School of the Environment to engage with water-related academic resources, events, trainings, and networking opportunities. Sound Stories on Screen is an opportunity for Yale students and the greater New Haven community to collaborate towards sustainable management of coastal resources in our own backyards.
We were incredibly excited when the Nature Conservancy in Connecticut offered to partner with us for Sound Stories on Screen. Their collaboration and support have been invaluable to organizing this event. So without further ado, we would like to welcome Melissa DiFrancesco from the Nature Conservancy to the stage to speak more about the documentary series and the work that they do on the Long Island Sound.
Thank you, Katie and Olivia, so much for your help in planning and organizing this event. Hello to everyone joining us tonight in person and online. Thank you for being here, and thank you to the Yale community for having us. My name is Melissa DiFrancesco, and I work with the Nature Conservancy in Connecticut, based right here in New Haven. The Nature Conservancy does amazing conservation work all across the state, from our Appalachians work in the northwest corner of Connecticut to coastal restoration projects right on the shoreline of Long Island Sound. Tonight, we are really excited to highlight a very important topic, water pollution. The videos you're about to see tonight highlight some of the people and projects working locally to solve pollution issues that impact the entire Long Island Sound region. We are thrilled to be partnering with Yale School of the Environment to bring you this program tonight. The 4 documentaries have a total runtime of around 30 minutes. And then after the screening, we'll transition to a panel Q&A session with some of the experts that you'll see in the videos. So the Nature Conservancy is an organizing member of the Long Island Sound Coastal Watershed Network, a group working to raise awareness of available resources, information, and funding for water quality work, and encourage collaborative implementation of local pollution reduction projects. The TNC organizes the network with our partners, Save the Sound and Citizens Champion for the Environment. Recently, we filmed and produced this documentary series to capture stories of successful water quality improvement projects from all over the Long Island Sound coastal watershed. So these are the people we work with, wonderful, hardworking people. We're championing water conservation in Long Island Sound. And then the image up on the right is of the Long Island Sound coastal boundary, so you can see kind of where we work. In this mini documentary series, we will travel all around the Long Island Sound region, learning about different types of pollution from inland areas to the shoreline, all the way to the bottom of the Sound. The first video we'll show tonight focuses on marine debris, specifically lost and abandoned lobster traps, and how this problem is being solved by a bi-state partnership. So thank you for being here, thanks for watching, and we hope you enjoy. All right, that's the last of our 4 videos. That one is really inspiring to me because it shows real-life examples of how communities can implement solutions that have multiple benefits for people and the environment. I really hope you enjoyed watching these videos and you learned something about pollution issues in Long Island Sound and how local organizations and communities are meeting those challenges with collaborative action. We're excited to have 4 incredible panelists here with us tonight to discuss the topics covered in the documentary series. So we'll bring the lights back up and we'll bring our panelists up and we'll get started. Here we go. Can I please have our panelists join us on stage? Thank you, and I'll hand things over to our panel moderators, Katie and Olivia.
All right, I know we have some folks that are grabbing some food or using the restroom, and no worries at all. Take the time that you need to hop in and out of the room as necessary, but we are so excited to welcome 4 amazing folks from the docuseries to join us for a quick 45-ish minute panel. So without further ado, I would love to ask the 4 of you, let's start maybe with Justin and go down the line. If you could introduce yourselves quickly, name, professional affiliation, and why the Long Island Sound matters to you in the context of this documentary, and just in general. So thanks so much.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Justin Susarchik from the Maritime Aquarium at Norwalk. And the sound just matters to me. As I said in the documentary, I've called Connecticut home my entire life. And, just seeing the health and the vibrancy of the sound be preserved is something that I'm deeply passionate about and love working on.
All right. My name's Peter Linderoth. I'm the Director of Water Quality, the Director of Healthy Waters and Lands at Save the Sound. I love working at Save the Sound. It's a great organization, protecting, restoring, understanding this beautiful estuary that we all share. The work's really near and dear to me, though. I grew up, like many people probably in this room, on the coastline of Long Island Sound. I was in the water. I'm on the water. I try to do that as much as I can in my professional and personal life. And I certainly am old enough to have seen the 80s when the sound essentially flatlined. And I was a kid. I can at least say that I was a kid in the 80s. But I remember it. It made a really big impression on me and what I wanted to do later on in life. And to see where we are now is really remarkable. 40 plus years later, seeing significant improvements in the water quality. And I grew up on the Western Sound. So I'm definitely a Western Sound guy, skirting the New York, Connecticut line all the time. I'm down in the Bronx, Queens, Greenwich, you name it, over to Long Island. But seeing the improvements has really been remarkable, and it's encouraging to know that where we are now, and even though there's more work to be done, has been such a great deal of improvement. So like all of us up here and other people that are working towards the next 40 plus years. So in short, I love what I do, and Save the Sound's a great org. I guess I could have left it at that. And here's Dr. J.
Hi, I'm Jamie Vaudry, and I am with the Department of Marine Sciences at University of Connecticut. And 3 years ago, we started the Connecticut National Estuary Research Reserve, which is housed at Connecticut. It's a NOAA-funded program, and I'm the research coordinator there. I'm also involved with the remote ecologists and the Niantic River Watershed Committee because I just can't do one job. I think my love of the sound is bigger than just the sound. It's the love of the ocean, right? And that I grew up in northern Vermont, nowhere near an ocean, but have been down in the Florida Keys, out in Oregon, here in Connecticut. I've worked up in Rhode Island. And the thing that I really love about the ocean is the interactions, the ecosystem interactions. And for me, the ecosystem includes humans. And so understanding that how we impact the ocean, how the ocean impacts us. I've even gotten into social science lately, working on ocean identity and how the ocean improves our mental health, physical health, and well-being. So I think for me, it's all about the connections and the interactions.
Jamie, estuary. I've just been saying ocean, it's our estuary.
Evening, everyone. I'm Tim Clark. I'm the Resilient Southeastern Connecticut Program Director with the Nature Conservancy in Connecticut. Most of the work that I do, I focus obviously on Southeastern Connecticut, working with communities that are dealing with the effects of climate change, whether it be coastal flooding, stormwater flooding. And together we work together to understand what are the changes we can be making in the landscape to address those effects and hopefully prevent them from happening. Going to sound like a broken record. I grew up in Connecticut. I feel like I am the person who I am because of Long Island Sound. I sail on it, I swim in it, I fish in it. I'm happy to see that the report card has a lot of A's on it because I'm pretty sure Long Island Sound flows through my veins. And so I'm glad it's not the Long Island Sound we grew up with. That's it.
Great. Thank you all so much for sharing and for everything that you do. So now we're going to switch to a little bit of Q&A. If we can get the slide.
Oh, there we go.
Okay.
So I have a question for you guys. How many of you grew up on the ocean? Ocean anywhere. Yeah. And I take it most of you are local. Is that true? Like local people? Yeah. So how many of you have a connection to the sound? How many of you feel like you have a connected, it matters to you? Okay. Thank you.
All right.
Okay, great. Thank you, Will.
Thank you for filling our time.
Okay, so we want to hear from all of you on your questions after watching these videos and hearing little introductions from our panelists. So if you could, if the screen keeps it up, scan our QR code and answer some questions. And if not, we have some other questions prepared, but we really want to hear what you guys are interested about.
Oh yeah, let's take it from the floor. Great, here.
Maybe you can answer a question that's been pretty confounding this season. We had a lot of heat, up and down, and yet we didn't have much rain. How do you explain those?
Did you pick that up in the beach report by any chance? Yeah, so that's something that we released, right? So I'd encourage everyone to check out the Long Island Sound Beach Report. It grades over, and I'm going to get to your question. Don't worry, this is not a deflection. It grades over 200 beaches around Long Island Sound, from Eastern Connecticut down into New York City, and then all along the North Shore back out to Eastern Long Island and Suffolk. You know, it's not always how much rain or how many storms we had, it's when it falls. And if you look at that beach report, you can see wet weather and dry weather failures, like when a sample that a health department collects that fails the safe swimming criteria for that day, or it's an exceedance value. Dry weather brings pathogen indicator bacteria to our beaches too. You know, as you heard all of us probably at some point say, stormwater is definitely an issue and a vector for pollution coming to the sound. But, you know, the research, and actually from UCSB, you can look up Professor Chadwick's paper. I happen to have gotten my undergrad there. It supports that in areas like ours, and make no mistake about it, even areas that don't seem that developed around Long Island Sound, it's still an urban sea. They're still relatively developed. And dry weather, when we have those high bacteria counts, it can often be associated with leaking sewer pipes underground, or cesspools and septic systems that are close to the coastline. And they still deliver pathogen indicator bacteria and the associated pathogens to our beaches. So we see wet and dry weather fails is what we call them in the beach report. And certainly there's a constant unfortunate flow of sewage in many areas that is traveling underground to our beaches and coastal area. That was a good question. Thank you.
I have another question for you, Peter.
Oh, boy.
So I live by Mumford Cove. It's one of the few bays that has eelgrass in it. It's a beautiful place to be, gorgeous to snorkel in. But 2 summers ago, it had the longest closure. It was like the last site to reopen after a major storm. And I think that gets at the complexity of this bacteria. Do you have any insight on the fact that, you know, I would not have thought Mumford Cove was going to be closed.
Yeah.
But it had warning signs up, you know, don't swim here. Yeah. Any thoughts?
I thought you were going to throw me a bone or like a little assist. You know, we're buddies. I thought you'd give me an easy one. Yeah, Mumford Cove, right? Like, you know, an hour and a half that way. But Mumford Cove is really gorgeous, actually. And ecologically speaking, it's had a remarkable success story, right? I mean, a large sanitary sewer outfall, I believe, and she knows this more than I do, was moved out of Mumford Cove, and eelgrass and other, you know, things that we want to see in healthy water eventually took hold. You know, if I had to guess, I've seen Mumford Cove. I've been there, believe it or not. I've been there. It's pretty enclosed. Maybe there was a flushing issue that was happening. With enough rain, like say you get a really heavy, intense rainstorm, and we see this in our bays and harbors, and usually beaches that are located, if you pick up that beach report, beaches that are located in recessed areas of the coastline, like Mamaroneck Harbor, maybe Mumford Cove to this example, tend to have slightly lower grades than those that are on the open shoreline, where we say flush more often with the natural tides. So pathogen indicator bacteria, certainly if it's a really big slug and it's in the summer, has the potential to kind of linger in these enclosed areas longer than it would on like an open sound beach. Good question, Jamie, as always.
My name's Riley. I have a question about bioswales and who in the long term is responsible for their upkeep. I know it's unique typically by county or by city. As well, is there like community information that is put out about bioswales? I worked on bioswales in Minnesota, and there was lots of compost put in them that ended up actually being a source for nitrogen and phosphorus. So I was wondering if you have seen any similar happenings and or how they are managed in Connecticut.
Yeah, I'd be happy to take that one. On the stewardship front, it really varies. So you mentioned counties. In Connecticut, we don't have any county governance. So everything is really handled at the local level. And so it really depends on which municipality you're working in. In the work that we've been doing with the city of Groton, we've explored everything from the city takes responsibility for the maintenance of some of the bioswales. Depending on the siting of other bioswales, there's not a lot of public property that we can be locating these on. And so we're oftentimes putting these on private property, whether it be residential or commercially owned properties. And so we obviously have to work with the property owner to get their consent to put it there in the first place, but then subsequently to get their buy-in on maintenance. And so the answer is it varies. It varies a lot depending on exactly what town you're working in and the way in which you're kind of rolling the project out. We like to see it be the case that the community has a sense of stewardship over it. And so we do develop educational materials whenever we're doing a bioswale or a tree planting so that the people who certainly have it on their property are aware of what's going on. But we've worked with consultants to also put out kind of not memos, but little brochures and pamphlets to give people a sense of what's okay to do, what's not okay to do. We don't have one yet published for this specific project. We're going to be putting one out soon, but there are certainly a lot of great resources out there. The New York City Parks Department has some really good information on bioswale maintenance, and so that's often a place I'll turn. But certainly, I think first and foremost, you have to work with the people who live around it to really build that sense of stewardship and understanding as far as what flies and what doesn't, so that you don't have what you're describing happening.
I'd like to share 3 examples, and this is wearing my hat as the coordinator for the Niantic River Watershed Committee. We're a 4-town committee. Our board of directors, our directors are nominated by or appointed by the selectmen of the 4 towns that are in the watershed of the Niantic River. So that's East Lyme, Waterford, Salem, and Montville. And one of the things we focus on is stormwater management, because that's one thing that we as a small committee can have an impact on. A number of years ago, probably going back 8 to 10 years ago, we assisted with the installation of a bioswale at the East Lyme High School. And it was brought to our attention a couple weeks ago that it was overgrown. And so one of our members reached out to the science teacher at the high school and said, hey, the bioswale is overgrown. It needs to be cleaned out, maintained. And they've already taken care of it. So the high school teacher got a group of students together and they went out and maintained it. But it's this education piece, like letting people know you don't just install it and walk away. There is a commitment to these systems. The other thing I want to share from the Niantic River perspective is we as a committee seek funding to help towns install these green infrastructures. So we have tree filters, which are literally imagine a tree being planted in a storm drain, right? So that's a tree filter. The idea is that the tree absorbs some of the water before it carries on down the storm drain. Another thing that we supported was an additional filter. Imagine like a coffee filter in a storm drain. Like it was a physical filter to help remove sediment and oil before it enters the storm drain system. So we had money to do this. We had set aside money for a certain number of tree filters and these physical filters in East Lyme and in Waterford. And over the years, East Lyme was like, we'll take the tree filters, but we can't manage those other filters. Because we don't have the equipment to manage those physical filters and clean out those storm drains. Whereas Waterford said, we've got a truck, we can clean the ones with the physical filters, but we don't want the tree filters because we don't have the capacity, we don't have the people to kind of take care of those trees. Whereas the folks in East Lyme, it's along this pretty downtown, the public works folks are already out there watering and pruning and trimming and picking up leaves and stuff. So it ended up that all the tree filters went to East Lyme and all the physical filters went to Waterford. The other thing that I want to share is the town of Groton has a stormwater, I don't actually know her title. I'm going to get it wrong. But she's in charge of their stormwater system. And she mentioned in a recent meeting that they have a brand new truck to clean this type of infrastructure. And she's suggesting the idea of loaning that truck to other towns because it's a big investment to get one of these trucks that can take care of these systems. So as Tim was saying, it's complex. It's not the same everywhere, but I think the education piece is important. And that's where I'll end is we're actually, we got a little bit of funding. And after a year of trying to figure out what our next project was going to be, we're actually holding a workshop for municipal workers, for the people who are out there cleaning these systems. We're hosting a workshop in November to educate them on this is how you clean them, this is how you maintain them, and then also introducing them to invasive species so that they can start recognizing and removing invasive species around the town. So there's a lot that we have to think about, and it's like this continuing effort that you're picking away at all the time.
Awesome. Just a quick plug for the YSC students here. The water learning community will be having a bioswale cleaning event around November. So keep your eyes peeled for that. And if you're interested in bioswales, definitely reach out to us because we will be tackling some of that right here in New Haven.
I just had a thought. Sorry to take 2 steps back, but I didn't catch your name, but I was thinking you were talking about this summer, I think. Right. So the Long Island Sound Beach Report grades the summer before. We'll be issuing grades for 2025 in the winter after we scrape them from all the local health departments. I wanted to say that also I was interviewed a few times about beach closures this year, and I think it's just an awareness of what's going on, which is outstanding, right? Like to see more local papers pick up beach closures. Beach closures have been happening for a long time because of this issue. I think it's a public understanding and a little bit more awareness of not just pulling up to your beach and seeing that sign that says, oh, it's not safe for swimming or beach closed, and turning around and going home and being bummed about it, but saying why? Why is the beach closed? And reaching out to reporters and reaching out to other, NGOs, like, why is my beach closed? I think there's a lot more awareness going on, which is great.
Thank you. Yes, Peter, I think you're right. There is a much greater awareness of these issues, but particularly the association between heavy rainfalls and then beach closures. And what made this summer unusual was that people saw beach closures without heavy rains. And that I think was.
And so if you go to soundhealthexplorer.org, that's the digital home of the beach report and the Long Island Sound report card that you saw referenced. You can look at 20 years of beach data with precipitation data, and you'll see that dry weather fails exist, right? So I talked about those already. I won't do that again, but it was still a great question, but I had to get that off my chest before I left. So, all right.
Thank you. I just want to take one of our questions that was submitted. So someone's asking what work is happening on river discharge pollutants. I don't know who wants to take that one. We've got like 10 minutes left, so.
In terms of when I hear the word discharge, I mean, there's the Clean Water Act, which manages and oversees the national, well, it doesn't manage and oversee it, the EPA does, but the National Pollution Discharge Elimination System and permits for dischargers. So NPDES permits or SPEEDES permits, you hear us use those acronyms. I mean, those definitely control discharges of pollution in respect to setting criteria and levels. And they're exceeded at times too. And it's important to have watchdog groups, Save the Sound and others that keep track of that. I mean, that is something that our legal department will do. We'll keep an eye on how often a discharger might exceed a permit value. And if it starts to be chronic or starts to be an issue, we'll potentially take action. Usually it's more collaborative, but then it can escalate. So that is a loaded question. I think anyone up here could answer that in many different ways, but I started with there's definitely a system in place that regulates discharges.
Yeah, and I feel like this question might have been about like other contaminants, perhaps. I can't reading into it a little bit, but those are often mentioned in these permits. There are online viewers that you can go on and see what is being discharged by companies or airports or what they're allowed to do. But of course, what I always think about is nitrogen. And there are, so in the video, you saw that we've had this 60% reduction in nitrogen load from like our sewer systems, our septic systems. And that's a huge advancement. Like that's just a major advancement. And that kind of reduction is happening around the country. You know, Narragansett Bay had a similar level that they achieved in 2007, I feel like. Boston Harbor actually took their wastewater pipe that was discharging right, well, multiple pipes, discharging right to the middle of Boston Harbor, and they moved it 70 miles offshore. And so it's better flushed out there, and they've seen just massive recoveries in the habitat of that system, including eelgrass moving in. And we mentioned eelgrass because it's an indicator of good water quality. Like it's hard to go out and measure water quality all the time. So if you can find something, if you can say, if eelgrass is here, the water's good. If there are oyster reefs here, the water's good. If you can clam here, the water's good. Like those are indicators that that the water quality is pretty good. So we made that 60% reduction, and you know, the report card, which Save the Sound puts out, shows there's still an F over in the Western Sound. That did not surprise anyone, but the question was, what's next? And so that's what both Connecticut and New York have been working on, is what's next. And getting at these non-point sources, these fertilizer, stormwater, septic sources, is a big part of the next step. Of course, we still have some work we can do with sewer systems, and that continues, but it really comes down to, let's switch over and look at these non-point sources now. And there's a lot of work going on. Like both states are heavily invested in modeling where the problem is, monitoring, supporting monitoring to understand the problem, and then supporting stewardship, supporting the installation of things that can make it better. Yeah.
Awesome. If you don't mind me moving over to Justin, we have quite a few questions for you. Thank you so much for your answers, everyone. But we have quite a list here about lobsters. So if you don't mind, I'm going to give you
Hit me with it.
a quick 1, 2, 3, all about lobsters. So firstly, people are wondering, how is the lobster population doing right now? Is it looking like it's improving? Are there still major concerns? And then on top of that, I'm going to tag on a quick ask on, how do you guys actually find the marine debris when you're out searching? What does the process look like?
All right. Well, first I'll start with the bad news. And unfortunately, the lobster population in the Sound, we're probably never seeing it recover from that collapse in the late 90s. Water's getting warmer and warmer. Even though water quality is improving, chances are now, in the coming decades, the water's only getting warmer, and it's becoming more and more inhospitable for lobster to really find a foothold in the Sound. So I don't expect us to see lobster coming back to the numbers that we saw back in the 90s. But that being said, we're still seeing huge improvements, especially when it comes to fish, when it comes to crabs, other crustaceans. We're seeing really strong, especially with black sea bass to tautog. We're seeing great, really improvements there on the fishery side. When it comes to finding these traps, our methods are right now, I would say, pretty simple. It's pretty straightforward, working hand in hand with the captains on their boats. So our research crews are working hand in hand on commercial fishing vessels coming onto the water, and our equipment is pretty much a 600-foot rope with 10 grapples attached to the end. So we are really going out to areas where the captains are bringing us out based on local knowledge. So that's just background history. Really, oh, hey, I had a buddy who was in the industry 20 years ago and had 500 pots out in this area. Let me bring you out there. And that actually has been really effective. So I'd say 9 out of every 10 trips are successful. On average, we're getting about 20 traps a trip. And it's really just us throwing grapple hooks over the side of the boat and slowly trawling through the water. We're looking at other technology for the future. What we need to do is tap into tech like side scan sonar. That's really where we want to see the project expand in the long-term future. We'd love to really map out the seafloor of the sound to really get a true sense. What is the gravity of the situation? Right now, we really have estimates going back historically with the old fisheries, but it would be great to really dial in, get some imagery on the seafloor, and really dial in on, how much impact have we really had? How much do we still have to go? And right over there.
Got an audience question. Oh, sorry, we have a mic for you.
That might not be necessary. That's fine. I will do so. What do you do with the pots when you retrieve them? Are they recycled? There's a lot of lead. You are well aware in them and other stuff like that.
Yeah, that's a great question. So the question was, what do we do with the traps after we pull them out of the water? So we do conduct those biological surveys on the traps when we get them fresh out of the water. So we try to get owner information if we can. That's the first thing we do. We see if there's any ID tags, any permit numbers. That way, if the owner is still around, if they're still an active fisherman, we could get in contact with them. These might be missing traps. They might have accidentally been lost. So we want to see if we can put them in the hands of a fisherman, put them back to use. I would say it's pretty rare for us to hand traps back to a captain. For the most part, traps on average are about 15 to 20 years old. Really kind of a legacy holdover from the 90s. So what we do is we take those traps back, we hold them for a month, and then at that point we have partner recyclers in the local area. So we hand them off to them, and then we have them completely broken down and fully recycled.
Thank you. I kind of wanted to end on just what, sorry. No, okay. Just one question that all of you can kind of touch on. I know you've already have a little bit, but maybe just larger scale. We have a question from the audience that's, what does an ideal future for Long Island Sound look like? So maybe through the lens of your work, what do you envision in a perfect Long Island Sound future?
Someone else take it.
Oh, I was definitely gonna start. So in the lens of Elytrap, for us, really long term, what we want to see is, because this is a partnership with researchers, but also with commercial fishermen. So we're working hand in hand. What we want to envision out of this project is an ecological win and an economic win. Every day I talk to lobstermen and I get their stories, and these guys are getting older and older and older, and this industry is only getting smaller and smaller. So every day when I'm on these boats, I hear stories about how the captains want to provide this business that they built, this livelihood that they've worked on for decades. They want to give it to their kids. They want to have them inherit the culture of fishing. And I would like to see that as well. And that goes hand in hand. To accomplish that, we have to meet environmental and ecological milestones. We have to keep the sound sustainable. And so we're getting a lot of buy-in from lobstermen. They want to see a sustainable fishery. They want to see this go for the next 100 years. But to make that possible, we have to work hand in hand, and we have to keep doing projects like this.
Well, I just want to keep that tide of improvement going. There's certainly a lot of challenges that the Sound still faces. I'd love to see more oxygen in the Western Sound every summer, reduce nitrogen, as Jamie was talking, reduce excess nitrogen, especially in that Western Sound region, whether it's a total maximum daily load just for the Western Sound, which is a huge nitrogen diet that Connecticut and New York would have to follow if EPA agrees to it. And I'm starting to think that might be necessary. I've heard other people mention it as well. And then to see the bays and harbors start to come back to life as well. So there's a lot of good news around Long Island Sound, but there's still a lot of room for improvement, more swimmable beach days. And all of this is in the face of climate change and the challenges it brings. You all know that. You're in an environmental, school auditorium. So climate change is definitely bringing a lot of challenges, and it definitely poses a risk to start to offset the gains that we've already seen in some of the improvements. As the water temperature increases, it can't literally hold as much oxygen, and a lot of this nitrogen story and eutrophication is tightly bound to how much oxygen's in the water. And I've been so encouraged to see the news, and I haven't seen them myself, and I'm out on the water a lot, you guys. I've not seen this huge pod of dolphins that's cruising around. I will say that I saw a seal in New Rochelle Harbor the other week. That made me feel good. That's not quite as remarkable as the 100 dolphins that have been swimming around my backyard. But I just feel like more dolphins, more ecological diversity, and these animals that for a while we really weren't seeing in Long Island Sound. It's all really encouraging, and I like to ride on the positive. I'm not a doom and gloom guy, and I'm really happy to be part of the solution for the future.
So ditto. I think what I envision for the future for Long Island Sound, or where I would like it to get to, is where these connections in our food web and with the watershed are healthy and they're functioning well. So it's yes, I want eelgrass and oysters and clams and dolphins, and there's a humpback whale that comes off of New Haven just about every year. That's great. And I'd like all of that to continue, but I'd also like us to reach into the watershed. The watershed touches Canada. So the Long Island Sound watershed goes up into Vermont, New Hampshire, a little bit of Canada, Massachusetts, obviously. So those connections, I think, are important, and improving things like our riverine migratory corridors. So fish can move into those fish that are moving from saltwater to freshwater and back and forth can do that effectively. But also, the nutrients coming down from the farmlands in Massachusetts, we need to retain those nutrients on the land and not waste them by putting them into the water. So all of those connections, I think, are important to getting to this point where we have healthy fisheries and more swimmable sound and just a place that we generally want to be.
I think we've heard a lot tonight about how Long Island Sound is an urban sea, and that is very, very true. What I want to see for Long Island Sound is that it functions as an ecosystem and the coastline functions as a natural ecosystem. That's not to say that we will be able to fully restore it back to a natural ecosystem. That's not going to happen. There are too many people. But there are things that we can be doing and designing along our waterways and in our cities so that those cities act more like a natural ecosystem. So doing things like bioswales, reducing the peak runoff flows that we get during big rainstorms so that our waterways act like rivers and not like straws that shoot water out. And then I think the other part of it is really thinking about access. So really thinking about how people are able to reach our waterways, use them for fishing, for recreation, to be able to kind of access cultural lifeways. So thinking about indigenous communities who really don't have coastal access sites anymore, thinking about a future in which they do have those access points. And then also just thinking about inland communities. So if you live up in Hartford, it's very difficult to get down to the coastline of Connecticut. You can go to a handful of state parks, but otherwise a lot of towns will restrict access. You have to pay for parking stickers. And so I'd also like to see a world in which we have a natural functioning ecosystem, but also we have accessible ecosystems for the people who live throughout the state and the region.
Well, thank you so much to Justin, Peter, Jamie, and Tim for joining us today. Can we give them a big round of applause? Thank you so much to you all for joining us, and I'm going to hand it over to Melissa to wrap things up.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Panelists, feel free to sit up here or return to seats, whatever's most comfortable. Thank you, everyone, for being here tonight. Can we go to the next slide really quickly? Thank you. So again, thank you to our panelists for your expertise. You inspire me every day, and I'm really in awe of the work that you're doing. And so thank you so much for the time you put into the interviews for the videos and being here tonight. I have a few other people I would love to acknowledge. First off, thank you so much, Katie, Olivia, and Adrian, for all of your help planning for this night. We started planning in May, so it's been most of the year in the making. Thank you for organizing and planning on top of summer jobs, coursework, extracurriculars. Your work did not go unnoticed, so thank you so much. Yes, please, a round of applause. I'd also like to thank my partners in filming and producing the videos, Jerry Monkman and Ryan Smith from Real Quest Films. They couldn't be here tonight, but they do incredible environmental documentary work all throughout New England. You really brought the vision to life. Ryan and Jerry, if you're on tonight online, thank you. Thanks for your continued support of this project. Thank you also to my incredible colleagues at the Nature Conservancy who supported the project, especially Holly and Susan, who also aren't here tonight, but also those who are here tonight. Tevin, taking photos, thank you. Anjali, Arcadia, Manuela, Heidi, and Tim, who's one of our panelists, all my wonderful colleagues and all their talents here tonight. Thank you to the Coastal Watershed Network partners, Peter, who's also pulling double duty tonight as a panelist, David Siegerman online, David Abreu from Save the Sound, thank you so much, and also Maureen and Christina from Citizens Campaign for the Environment. So another round of applause, all of these amazing people. And finally, I want to thank all of you for attending tonight in person or online. The videos are available for public viewing on YouTube if you'd like to see them again or share them with family, friends, colleagues. If you'd like to receive updates from the Coastal Watershed Network, you can scan the QR code on the right and sign up for our newsletter. We share a lot of great things through that. And also, please, if you'd like to follow TNC on social media, we share a lot of our great conservation work in Connecticut. So before we head out, I have promised we're going to pull a prize drawing. So if you did a raffle ticket at the beginning, a prize ticket, we're going to pull that now. Would one of our panelists like to pull the ticket? Be like, Tim, you're going to pull the ticket. Okay. Yes. Okay. And if this person is not here, we'll call them.
Chris Schweitzer. I can't.
Is he here? Chris Schweitzer? He just left. Okay. Does someone know Chris? We'll flag him down. All right. Congratulations, Chris. You have won an amazing bag of TNC swag in a dry bag. So if you're going canoeing, you're all set. Yeah, thank you so much for coming. And please, in the spirit of what we're doing here, bring your trash and recyclables to the proper bins. And have a great night, everyone. Thank you so much.